Bess's boyfriend Kyle moved to California in book 93. Bess says she's going to visit him for the holiday. When she comes back, she confirms that their relationship is most definitely over. Sorry to all the Kyle fans out there who were hoping he'd make a comeback.
Argo Funk Book Review, Argo Funk Book Review.
In a scene that screams, "This book was written in 1994, Bess suggests getting Ned a cordless phone or a VCR before she buys something at the hip-hop shop. Bess is shocked to learn the money she got from her Aunt Celeste is counterfeit. Aunt Celeste says she got the money 2 months ago from cartoonist Chloe Lee. Chloe is dating jokester Jason Green. Chloe works with Marco Diani, a very shy graphic designer. She acts like his overprotective mother, which is sad for him because he obviously has a longtime crush on her. Nancy is suspicious to find a color copy machine at Chloe's work. What kind of art business needs the ability to make color copies? All of them? The group goes out to dinner with Stuart Teal, who owns a local printing business. Like everyone else, Stuart is super hot. He's so hot, George wants him to date Nancy. This is far from the first time George spends the entire book encouraging Nancy to leave Ned for another guy. Why does she hate Ned so much? Nancy's heart skips a beat when Stuart offers to give her a private tour of his plant. Nancy overhears Marco and Chloe argue about Jason. Chloe's argument sounds like, "I'm sorry my boyfriend's a jerk, but I won't leave him." Unlike Nancy, Chloe is a loyal girlfriend. Stuart's tour is impressive. They have a printer, which uses 6 colors at a time. Wow! The tour is ruined when the culprit throws a carton at Nancy's head. She's forced to dodge by jumping down to the ground 7 feet below. On a positive note, this gives Stuart an excellent chance to pull Nancy off the ground by wrapping his manly arms around her. A minor suspect is art director Pamela Carrera. The funny money might have come from her. Pamela acts panicked and guilty the whole time, but it turns out she's an innocent person with a major spending problem. Stuart and Jason play doubles racquetball with Nancy and George. He shares the court with Nancy. Such a gentleman. Nancy and George change into towels and go to the steam room. They're locked in. They bang on the door calling for help. Nancy does a running kick on the door, but Stuart opens the door right when she's about to kick it, so she just falls flat on her face in front of him. Oh, very embarrassing. Nancy learns Marco was expelled from college due to counterfeiting. Everyone goes to a fancy dinner where Jason is a jerk to Marco. Stuart strokes Nancy's face and shoulders as he says the culprit's motive might be love. Nancy finds that Marco drew a perfect replica of a $50 bill. Marco disappears right after this. Chloe defends Marco, and the culprit leaves a non-threatening note on Nancy's car. Very rare for the culprit to leave a non-threatening note for Nancy. Stuart asks Nancy out to dinner at the most expensive restaurant in town. It's so romantic. Stuart says he doesn't care that Nancy's seeing a guy named Ned. Stuart's determined to win her over. The night ends with a kiss that is so wonderful, Nancy knows she can never regret it. Nancy is such a terrible girlfriend in this series. Stuart buys Nancy roses, and she goes to Marco's house. She finds a bundle of fake cash and a note that indicates Marco went to a cottage 50 miles north of here. Nancy goes there, and she notices one of her tires is weird. That's because the culprit loosened one of her lug nuts. It takes her 20 minutes to fix the car. That's a really long time for one loose lug nut. The Nancy Drew from Secret of the Old Clock would be shaking her head in disgust. When Nancy arrives at Marco's cabin, she sees he was murdered by the culprit. Marco's death is on the front cover, and it's mentioned on the back cover, even though it happens on page 120. Way to spoil the plot twist that happens 80% of the way through the book. No, seriously, this is a late book spoiler. The next thing that happens is the culprit capture. Marco's beeper reveals the last person he talked to was Stuart, indicating Stuart is the culprit. Nancy goes to Stuart's house, just in time to see Stuart and Jason leave with boxes of currency paper. The men take the paper to the press, where they print a bunch of fake money. Nancy is shocked. How could Stuart be a criminal? He's too good looking to be evil. And indeed he is. Jason is the main culprit. He gives all the orders. Stuart is just a captive on Jason's runaway bus. Nancy understands that Stuart isn't bad, just weak-willed. She feels relief that she was in control of herself the whole time, instead of being fooled by his fake nice guy act. After all, they only kissed once. That sounds a lot like being fooled by Stuart's fake romance scheme to me. Jason captures Nancy and George. He ties them up with rope. He also ties up Stuart. 2 books ago, we were told George always has a knife on her, just for situations like this one. I guess she forgot her knife at home today, because Nancy uses a metal plate to cut the ropes. There's a struggle over Jason's gun. For a moment, he puts George in a headlock and treats her as a hostage. Nancy easily knocks Jason out with a karate chop as soon as his back is turned. Bess says she can't wait to go to college. George says Nancy should get Ned a beeper for Christmas. Just don't tell him you got the idea from a crime scene. The end. Postbook follow-up. Nancy's not going to tell Ned about Stuart, is she? The next book is a Nancy-Ned vacation book. It's really awkward to have one of those right after a book where she cheats on him without any regrets. The romance angle to this book is typical for the series, but it is pretty engaging. Arguably, it was better done than the mystery. I think the mystery would be improved if Celeste and Pamela were not treated as suspects. I think the other 4 suspects were good enough. This author enjoys short scenes and describing Nancy's clothes at length. George did well as Nancy's companion, and there are enough details to make this world seem real. I'm not sure this book could be done today, in a world where color printers are readily available. Scanners are a common thing too, but no one in this book knows about them, hence the need to hand-draw dollar bills. Overall, I enjoyed it, even if I'm sick of seeing Nancy's increasingly flimsy excuses for cheating on her longtime boyfriend. The book managed to keep my interest, even though a non-violent crime like counterfeiting is not the norm for this series. I give Nancy Drew Files number 102, Counterfeit Christmas, a 7 out of 10.